Meet Dr. Stephen Neal, the retired physician who spent 30 years creating a sculpture park he saw in a vision, and then was diagnosed with terminal cancer before it was finished. In this episode of Why We Believe, Dr. Neal shares how a Portland Temple experience changed everything for him, why his daughter walked out of the hospital against all medical odds, and the song lyric that reminded him God wasn't done with him yet, even with cancer markers off the charts. Welcome to the Why We Believe show, where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints share their inspiring stories of faith and conversion to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Nathan Gwilliam. Hello, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Why We Believe show. Today, I am joined by Dr. Stephen Neal. Dr. Neal was a practicing physician for decades, and he's just recently retired. He's been working on the side building a sculpture garden, a faith-filled sculpture garden in Heber, Utah. And now he's doing that full time. And we look forward to hearing about that and some amazing life experiences that he has to share with us. Thanks for being with us today, Dr. Neal. Dr. Neal, can you start off by sharing with us something that most people don't know about you?
Well, I was born in Nephi, Utah. And after I was raised in Utah, Murray, Utah, I've been away for 45 years. So I just came back to Utah. I never thought I would. And I remember Vern Swanson asked me, because he knew that I was a sculptor. He says, "Tell me you were born in a little town in Utah, because you can't be a good sculptor unless you've been born in a little town. You know, we don't get them from big towns." I said, "Yeah, I was born in Nephi. I lived there for about 2 months and moved away, and I've only been back passing through now and again."
So what brought you back?
The sculpture garden. We had a very comfortable living in Pendleton, Oregon, where I'd been for 37 years. And that's why we moved back. Before you know it, I mean, next year, very soon, we'll have our 50th wedding anniversary. I mean,
congratulations!
Thank you. We're getting. My wife's parents never saw it. So her mother died before her 50th anniversary. So, getting towards the end of my life, and what have I done? And what is my life's work? And I have to get this done. So there's a great sense of urgency with moving down here.
So tell us about that life's work. Tell us about the sculpture garden.
Okay. I've always been an artist. Since I was a little tiny kid, I've always had some kind of an art project to work on. And I knew right away I didn't want to raise my family trying to be an artist, a starving artist. But when I was 15 years old, that's when I started oil painting. My mother gave me her little paint box, was a little fishing box and a palette and some oil paints that she bought for Relief Society. They were teaching the Relief Society sisters how to paint. And so she says, "Oh, Steve likes art. I'll give him to Steve." Well, I still use that paint box and the same original palette that she gave me.
Wow.
But when I was 15, I graduated from doing psychedelic posters for my friends in junior high school. I said I wanted to do something a little bit bigger and something would last longer. I started doing it on poster board paper. And I said, well, that's a very friable kind of it's a medium that's not going to last very long. I got to do something like oil paint, put it on canvas. So what I did is I got some plywood boards, and it was 10 feet by 5 feet, big, huge thing. And I had my old sheets that I took off my bed that were worn out, and I used mastic and I stretched this cloth over these boards, and and then they folded up into a kind of an accordion, 10 feet by 5 feet. And I painted on that for 2 years. 50 life-size birds sitting in a tree, and all of this is incredibly busy. But that's what I did for 2 years. And I came home from my mission from Japan, and I saw that hanging in my bedroom, and I go, what possesses a boy to do something like this? Good question. I think I just came out of the womb that way.
we all have different gifts, right? And then,
It's hanging in my garage now. That's about the only place that's
okay.
good enough for it. So that was my big project, and I continued to paint all the way into even medical school. I started to paint Book of Mormon paintings. I was very encouraged, even inspired by President Boyd K. Packer. He came to BYU and he gave a talk about about art, about the message of the restoration, the spirit of the Lord, and it really encouraged me to start using these painting skills, whatever I had, to depict the Book of Mormon. And I thought I would do that for the rest of my life. We talked before about Lehi's dream. That was an extreme example.
Yeah. So you inspired me. I remember more than at least 20 years ago, I went through the Church History Museum and I saw one of your paintings, your your
Lehi.
Tree of Life painting. Yeah, Lehi's Dream with the Asian
Yeah.
influence. That's the one that's yours, right? And that inspired me. For more than 20 years now, I've wanted somebody to create a painting of the opposite side, right? Someone inside the great and spacious building looking out, maybe with a tear coming down. And you shared something interesting during our pre-call interview that you had the exact same thought.
Yeah, Lehi's Dream is 8 feet by 4 feet, and I always wanted to turn it into a triptych. So you had three, a big one, and then one on the left, and then one on the right. The one on the left would have been inside the building, the great and spacious building,
Yep.
and somebody's inside, and he's miserable, and there he's looking out, and just in front of him are people having a good time. And that's what we do in this world, right? If we don't have the Spirit with us, we have to have a good time constantly to keep us from feeling so morose, from feeling this desperation, the emptiness that comes with, when you have life without God, without the Spirit. And then another view would have been at the very front of the very beginning of the rod of iron, looking towards the tree of life. But the main view that I took was from the believer's point under the tree of life, looking across this great chasm to the great and spacious building and back from where they came. So anyway, that the judges really liked it. I guess a lot of people liked it. It sat in the museum for over 30 something years. It was a grand prize winner. And they wanted to buy it, and I said, it's not for sale. It's my daughter's painting. I have 6 daughters, and I painted a painting for each one of my daughters. And I would put them into some Book of Mormon scene, something connected with that. And Heidi, she was 5 years old when she was painted under the tree of life. She's almost 50 now, so it's been a long time since I painted that.
Yeah.
But that was her painting, and so they got a new head of the museum, and when he came in, he said, wait, we don't have any paintings for 30 years on loan. So you go back to the owner and say, you have to donate this, or we have to buy it from you, or we got to send it back. We're just not going to keep it. So my daughter talked with the new curator, and it was obvious they were going to put it away because it's been on display for so many years. And she says, no, I want my daughters to enjoy it, so you can't have it. So they shipped it back to me because she was living in a small apartment. But it's a new home. The new permanent home for that big painting will be the visitor center of the Sculpture Park, Monument of the Americas. That's where we're going to put it.
Okay.
So right now I'm the custodian, keeping it nice until we can put it there.
So Dr. Neal, is there a story behind that painting around the creation of that Lehi's Dream painting that you'd like to share?
Well, I read the vision both of Lehi and of Nephi, who again saw his father's vision and then narrated it. And my hope was I used to pray, Lord, can I see the vision so I can paint it? And that used to be my prayer again and again. And I have to admit, I never saw the vision like Nephi saw the vision. The image of the painting, however, came to me in a flash. And then I spent a long time hammering out all of the details. And it was one time when I was painting on Lehi. You can see Lehi in that left corner, the left lower corner. And it was late at night. Everybody was in bed. I was still in residency in San Diego, but I was the only one up. And as I was painting, there was this very powerful experience. You know, when you're in a room by yourself, or you think you're in the room by yourself and you like feel somebody, there's somebody watching me, and you turn around,
Yes.
another person in the, I had this feeling. It's like you could hear the rustling of clothing or breathing. It was like there's somebody there. It was a really powerful experience. And I had this testimony that Lehi was a real person. He was not a figment of anybody's imagination. And it was so powerful. It was though I could see him and talk to him and shake his hand. I didn't shake his hand, but I knew he existed. And I'm painting a very special depiction of Lehi and the vision. And I think the Lord gave me this testimony of the Book of Mormon in such a powerful way. And it was in place of seeing the vision that I had this witness that this story was true and that Lehi was a real person. And I've never forgotten that. And it's added to my testimony, the Book of Mormon, which has always been strong since I was 18 years old.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's go back to the sculpture garden really quick. What is your vision for what that garden will become?
Well, like I said before, I always thought I would be a painter. 30 years ago, in May of this year, I went to the Portland Temple, and I was in the temple, and that was back when they first put music with it. And Michael Ballum was Satan, you know. Mm-hmm. And it was first time I'd seen that, but it was really a powerful experience where the Spirit just came over me. And I tell people when I explain, where did you get this idea from? That I don't see visions like the prophet Joseph saw visions, but that's as close as I've ever come. In my mind's eye, I could see a sculpted park, like a bird's eye view. And in there, in the central part, was a large statue of the Savior, and then other sculptures that were around it. And the Spirit told me, bore witness, that this is the explanation of this part of your patriarchal blessing, Steve, that you never knew. You didn't understand what it was. So that your viewers can understand the sentences, a couple of them, they read like this. It says, "You shall hold a light where it may be seen from afar. The effect will be a blessing to those who are prepared to hear the counsel of truth. And this you will do in season and in the hour of need." And I never knew what that meant because it sounded kind of really highfalutin. Where would I ever be a light that people could see from afar? The interpretation is not me. It's the Savior. The Savior is the light that will be seen from afar. And that's, in fact, is what it is. If your viewers go to, we'll give you a link to YouTube, in which you can go there, and you'll see that I have sculpted this statue. We started out small. It became a marble statue that actually we put in the MTC, and President Oaks actually unveiled it there. And from that, I then did it again, bigger, and then I finally did it 18 feet tall, and that is the central figure.
Wow.
And it's being built right now up in Oregon in the foundry that I used. And I'm going to go up, get it next spring, bring it back down. And that'll be part of the installment in the park where the Savior literally will be seen from afar. Certainly in this valley, most of the valley will be able to see it, and we will light it up at night. And this whole park then kind of came to me as a very inspired kind of an assignment, if you will, a mission. I was 30 years ago. So, and I say this to your viewers, okay, you have absolutely overwhelming kind of an assignment. How do you do that? You start one step at a time, one sculpture at a time. And so I started creating them. Some of them were not very good, and I destroy them or just do them again and redo them until finally I have about 43 or 44 sculptures. And I have two other sculptors. One I asked him to join 20 years ago, Michael Hall, who's a very fine sculptor. He just put the Father and the Son, and Joseph Smith was just put on Temple Square by him. You probably saw it.
Wow.
That's my colleague. And so he and I have been working on this together now for 20 years. So it'll be fabulous. There'll be nothing like it in the whole world. And it's dedicated.
I look forward to going and visiting it someday.
I would like to visit it too. Our target date is 2028 or 2029 to have it open. 2030, it's 200 years since the founding of or printing of the Book of Mormon. And we want to make sure that it is done by then. So,
and the sculptures you're making are from the Book of Mormon. Is that correct?
That's right. There are two gardens in the Monument of the Americas. Is split into two gardens. How it became that is First Nephi chapter 13, where Nephi sees the founding of America. He sees Columbus moved upon by the Spirit of the Lord. Doesn't say Columbus, but we know that was him because he found the Americas. And then the other people that were migrating, including the Pilgrims, obviously are described. The Revolutionary War is described. That is a doorway into, if you will, this garden. And we actually have a panel 10 feet long by 7 feet tall where Nephi is pictured seeing that vision, where he's somewhere in the Arabian Peninsula when he sees this, thousands of years before it happens. And that is one of the entrances into what we call the American Covenant Garden, where we celebrate the inspired founding of America. So we have George Washington and so forth praying in Valley Forge. We have a lot of miracles which have been described, and even the narrative in bronze plaques that describes, for example, how he was a colonel then, Colonel Washington in the French and Indian War. He should have been killed, where an Indian chief took aim at him so many times and he kept missing, and all of his braves could never shoot him. The Lord preserved him. And that story is lost to most children and young people growing up. We'll reinstall that where Washington is seen on his horse. He survives. Also, John and Abigail Adams, we'll picture them. And Benjamin Franklin signing the Constitution. Some of those miraculous stories that we'll put back in there, where you can't get them by going to Washington, D.C. They don't tell them anymore. They've taken God out of the founding of this country, and we'll put it back in. That's the other part of this park. So most of the sculptures, there are about 60 of them, are Book of Mormon sculptures. The Christ statue is actually he's standing on what are actually the gold plates. The foundation, he's standing on there, and the very top of it is actually a waterfall. It's a fountain or a pool. The water comes over the plates, falls down about 18 feet into a pool, and then down in the pool, facing the Lord. I got to turn around to show you this. So you have what look like hands. You can see that, hands. We call them the hands of man. They look like adoring or worshiping hands, but the fingers are life-size humans, people. And on the left side, you have the New World, the people of the New World the Western Hemisphere, and on this side you have the Eastern Hemisphere. Christ is also shown holding a lamb which corresponds to the old world, and a baby alpaca by his side, which is the lamb of the new world. So you've got that dichotomy. That will be kind of the central figure of the park. There's also a fountain, 3 tiers, very elaborately designed and executed, with over 24 figures in there, angels and children, the Savior with the little children and so forth. Behold your little ones. We're actually going to have music in that area, in that pavilion, which will be choreographed to the fountain. So the fabulous. We'll find a lot of people love that fountain, hang around it.
Well, I'm going to be there. That sounds like a wonderful place to visit. Thank you for sharing. And thanks for all the work you've put into that.
You're welcome.
So you're actually in your studio right now.
Yeah.
Could you turn your camera around and maybe show us a little bit of something you're working on?
So I had a nice studio in Oregon, but you can see here, I ripped out the carpet and I put down laminate flooring. This is my studio where I spend 90% of my working hours here. This figure is from 4th Nephi. This is the blind to see. Remember that the disciples of Christ, they healed people. If you look from this direction. So this is nearly done to take to the foundry. And this one is one of 20 panels. And this one, you can see that there's a lot. I'm finished the hands, but nothing else. I'm working on that. It has a heart of polystyrene. And if you don't know what this is, I'll show you this. I've been working on this. Can you see that all right?
Yeah.
This is going to be the finger of the Lord.
Okay.
And here are the stones that are touching. And that is obviously the brother of Jared, who's terrified and amazed at the same time. So,
wow, you are so talented. Thank you so much for sharing that.
20 panels, 10 feet by 7 feet. Those will be the talk of the town. They're really fabulous.
And they're from 20 Book of Mormon
Yes,
stories?
20 different scenes where Alma repents and the angel is, trying to, the sons of Mosiah are cowering on the ground. That's one of the panels. Lehi's dream, I redid the painting. This time it's a sculpted panel. I did substitute myself and my daughter and my wife for a Hispanic family. It's international. We have Asians, obviously, in there, and a Black family and Polynesians and so forth. That's one of the panels. Another is King Anti-Nephi Lehi bearing the weapons of war. We have the sons of Helaman, the 2,000 sons of Helaman. The destruction of the Nephites, the extinction of the Nephites. It's a battle scene. It's very, violent and very powerful. It's a powerful kind of a thing. And we've got where they're crossing the great Iriantum, the great waters, and Nephi's tied up to the mast of the ship, and Laman and Lemuel are almost drowning. I mean, they're very very fun to look at. They're just got a lot of good ones.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I look forward to visiting that. Can you tell me about one of the first times in your life where you came to know for yourself that Jesus Christ lives and that this church is true?
I was graduating from high school, Murray High School. I grew up, born in Nephi, and went to Murray High School. Then I went to BYU, and I moved away from Utah. I never came back for 45 years. But when I went in the summer before I went to BYU, I was really serious about getting a testimony of the Book of Mormon. And I'd gone through seminary, and, it was release time. But I didn't feel like my testimony I needed to stand on my own. And I remember I finished the Book of Mormon in the stillest summer before school. And I remember going out and in the woods, so to speak, like Joseph Smith, praying to the Lord. And I remember looking up at a nearly full moon, clear night, demanding testimony from the Lord. Never got it.
Yeah, that doesn't work really well.
And I was very disappointed, even discouraged. About 3 days later, it was in testimony meeting, and somebody got up and they started to talk about their parents and how they had always led them the right way. And I thought on my own mother, for example. She was the energy behind introducing my father to the gospel, who converted. But she had a really strong testimony, always did. But I thought of her and the love that she had for me and teaching me. And as this happened, the best way I can just describe it, it felt like my chest inside started to get really warm, and then became so powerful that I couldn't stand. I was sitting in the pew, and this feeling came over me, and I was very embarrassed, a boy, and started crying, embarrassed for people to see me, and it didn't go away for hours. And this powerful feeling said, what your parents taught you is true. Book of Mormon is true, and God really does exist. That's always stayed with me. And the contrast to demanding this, I read the Book of Mormon, I need this testimony, give it to me. From that to absolute humility, and how the Spirit then comes over you and softens you, speaks to you in a way that you have a hard time. People who've had the experience know exactly what I'm talking about. People who haven't, and you're just trying to describe it, it's a warm, peaceful. It was more than warm. It felt hot. It was burning, and it lasted for a couple of hours. And it's never been like that since. But that first time was really powerful. Had other, marvelous experiences, but that has always stayed with me. These.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'm 72 now, and still, I remember.
As a father, have there been any experiences you've had that you'd like to share that have helped increase your faith and testimony?
Yeah. So I have 6 daughters.
Lucky man.
Yeah, no sons, 6 daughters. Anyway, this actually was only a few years ago. My third daughter, Melanie, I remember she was calling me because I'm a doctor, right? And she was saying, Dad, I have this lump. It's really hard when I push on my stomach, and it's getting even lower. And I says, Melanie, that's not normal. Nobody has hard things in their stomach, their abdomen. You need to go to the doctor. So she went to the doctor and had an appointment with the doctor. And we ordered this CAT scan of her abdomen. And they sent me the actual images. I remember that. And I'm looking at them. And her liver was really large. And it almost, I said, what is this? Is this cancer? Well, it turned out what we call in medicine the Budd-Chiari syndrome. And what that is, it's blockage or a thrombosis of the hepatic veins. Veins are going into the liver, so the blood returning from the rest of the body and from the portal vein and so forth, the vena cava that goes through there can't get through. Anyway, she, around that, about the same time, she didn't even make it to the specialist. She ran into the emergency room and basically was in fulminant hepatic failure. And they put her into the hospital, and my wife and I, we left from Pendleton. We went to Boise, where she was. And we're talking with the doctors there, and they didn't know first if it was cancer. They hadn't really diagnosed it. And finally, they did. Within 24 hours, they got the diagnosis. And there was a doctor there who actually was on the Nampa High Council. He was an interventional radiologist, and he talked to me as one doctor talks to the other. He says, well, what we're going to try and do is sedate her under local. We're going to go through the external jugular vein into the internal jugular vein, and then down into the vena cava, right down into the liver. We're going to try and take this clot out, which has blocked her the return. And I remember before she went to that, I was giving her a blessing, and as a doctor, we still didn't know if it was cancer or not. But I remember I got the definite feeling as I was blessing her to bless her, and we were worried she's going to die because this person said, I was worried that her kidneys, if you know anything about medicine, it's called the hepatorenal syndrome. If your liver goes into failure and your kidneys are involved, between the two, it's an irreversible cycle and people die from that. And I said, if you take her with anesthesia, that'll hurt her kidneys worse because her urinary output was going down. And he said, doesn't matter. We need to do this if you want your daughter to live. So anyway, before that, I was giving her a blessing, and I just got this distinct feeling. It was a powerful feeling. Promise her that she will walk out of this hospital and that she'll be okay. Now, as a doctor, I didn't want to believe that. I believe she's in serious trouble. But I went with the inspiration. And blessed her that way, if you would, to bring down the powers of heaven. Anyway, so the doctor who did this, his name was Dr. Nelson. He says, no problem. I did one of these. What they do is they go down and they actually put in a stent, which will open up the blood flow again. He says, I just did one of these. It took me 25 minutes. I was the first one in Idaho to do them, and I've done 125 of them. No problem. 2.5 hours, he came out, and he was like, wow, that was the hardest one I'd ever done. And then, in fact, I've had this experience as a doctor as well. He tried and he tried and he tried to get that clot out, and he couldn't. Because it was too well organized. It'd been in there for, I don't know, maybe months. It was very fibrotic. He couldn't release it. So he just, what am I going to do? And he gets this inspiration. Go right through the wall of the vena cava and into the liver and blindly search for a portal vein, which would connect the circuit and let the blood flow go back. And that was craziness, he said, but he did it. And he found a good tributary of the portal vein. He took the stent, doubled it, and put it in. And to this day, she still has that. And it's that when they took her after that and they flew her to Salt Lake in the hospital there, it's actually in Murray where I went to, that's where I used to live. In that big hospital there, and put her on the liver transplant team. And they told me they have a point system. She was 39/40 for getting a liver transplant. And each day her numbers got better and better and better and better until she was able to basically walk out of the hospital, just like I promised. I promised her in the valley, and that blessing. She left there and went back on the day before Christmas Eve and joined her family. But that was an amazing experience.
What a huge blessing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Stephen, in conclusion, why do you believe?
Well, you've heard some of these things. I believe, first of all, because I want to believe. Like Alma says, if you can work with just the desire to have faith, that's where you begin. But then I've had many, many experiences. The still small voice, basically. My visions that I've had have been basically ideas and images and inspiration that comes into my mind. And then I can tell the difference usually when it's my own thought or when the Lord is trying to tell me something. And so, many times it's not what I would do. I remember trying to reprimand my daughter a different daughter, when she was going off to this one boy. And I just wanted to say, you're not going to see him anymore. But praying about it, this thought comes into my head. You need to give her free agency, Stephen. And if you do that, she will choose the right. I said, no, Lord, do that. And I felt that was right. And that's what I did. And she did make the right choice, So these thoughts sometimes are against what I would want to do. But as you ponder on them, and then here, that's right. That one came from the Lord. So the Lord has blessed me in many, many ways. I haven't told you yet, but a little over 2 years ago, it's been 2 years ago in August, where it was hurting to do sculpture. It was hurting to do surgery. When I'd put my arms up, my ribs would hurt. It hurt. And I hurt to turn my neck. I couldn't turn all the way around. I said, something's wrong. Anyway, I had one of my friends order a CAT scan on me. And he calls me up and he says, Steve, it doesn't look good. And I said, oh, I know what it is. It's multiple myeloma, isn't it? He says, that's what it looks like. Multiple myeloma it's a blood cancer. And when I got that news, obviously I said, well, I'm retiring immediately. And I had surgeries that went from August to the end of December. And I said, I don't know if I can do them all, but we'll finish them up, but I'm done. And I remembered I've been working on this sculpture park, what am I going to do about that? And I was sculpting away, obviously. I've spent tens of thousands of hours doing this park. It's sculpting. There was a song I always do surgery and I always do sculpture to music. I have 7,000 songs. It's everything that I like, classical as well as smooth jazz. And there was one song and the person was singing. It was Have a Little Faith. And I thought on that. And the Lord has basically said, Steve, you're not done yet. Have a little faith. So anyway, what I didn't know is there's some miraculous treatments that there's no cure for multiple myeloma. I mean, I still have it, though you can't find it in my body. I'm totally free of it. But I'm on these medicines and I'll be at least on one for the rest of my life. And you can live 10 years or longer on this. But after 1 month of treatment, my parameters, my markers went from cancer markers from 1 to 1,000 to 1 to 1. So I've been in remission after the first month of treatment.
Wow, what a blessing.
2 years and 4 months, 800 days. And
sometimes the angels that God sends us are physicians who've gone to school for 20 years and have helped us find the miraculous solutions, the blessings from God.
Yeah, bless their souls. Not a day doesn't go by that I don't thank God for that day. So,
yeah, thank you for sharing.
But park's going to be built. I mean, even if I die tomorrow, it's going to be built. But I think I have my assignment is still there before me, and I'm going to get it done.
Well, I bless you health and healing to someone who spent much of his life helping other people heal. And I pray that God's healing influence will continue to be poured out upon you and your family as you go through this and continue this work that you feel so inspired to do.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today, Steve.
You're welcome.